Prietita and the Ghost Woman, story by Gloria Anzaldua. So let me read this little description here. It says, ever since she can remember, Prietita has heard frightening stories of La Llorona, the legendary ghost woman who steals children at night. One day, when Prietita goes in search of the missing herb that can help cure her mother, she becomes lost in the woods. Suddenly, she hears a distant crying sound and sees flashes of white in the trees. Could it be the ghost woman from her grandmother's stories? In her second book for children, Gloria Anzaldua reinterprets one of the most famous Mexican legends, the story of La Llorona, the ghost woman. Surrounded by the live oak and prickly pear of the Texas woods, Prietita discovers that La Llorona is not what people expect, but rather a compassionate woman who helps her on her path. In this magical and enchanting story, Prietita searches for the healing root plant turns into a powerful journey of self-discovery. Here is the title page. Prietita was at the house of La Curandera, the healer. She was working in the garden when her little sister Miranda came running toward her. Prietita could see that she was frightened. Prietita, mommy feels very bad. It's the old sickness again. Can you ask La Curandera to help? Yes, I'll ask her, said Prietita, getting up and hugging her little sister. Doña Lola can cure almost any sickness. She knows lots of remedies. She's teaching me all about them. Doña Lola said Prietita respectfully, you know every healing plant in this valley. My mother has the old sickness again. Is there any remedy that can help her? Yes, there is a remedio. I'll have all I have all the ingredients except one, the leaves from the root plant. I'm sorry, mijita. I'm sorry, my child, but I've used up all the ruda I had and none of the neighbors grow it. But come into the kitchen and I'll draw the plant for you. Prietita watched closely as La curandera sketched the room. She was worried about finding the healing plant for her mother. Ay, Doña Lola, you must know where I can find some room. Well, I know there is some in the woods of the King Ranch, answered La curandera, but it is dangerous to go in there. I've heard that they shoot trespassers. She looked intently at Prietita. It is not safe for a little girl. Prietita decided that she had to find the healing plant. That afternoon, she walked slowly along the outside of the King Ranch, looking for the dark green leaves and yellow flowers of the rue. Several times she thought she had found it, but each time the plant was a little different from Doña Lola's sketch. She stared into the woods on the other side of the fence. Somewhere in there was the rue plant that could help her mother. Making sure that nobody was watching, she squeezed under the barbed wire and entered the King Ranch. At first, Prietita stayed close to the fence, but as she searched for the root plant, she wandered deeper into the woods. Suddenly, she thought she heard a crying sound, and she remembered her grandmother's stories of La Llorona, the ghost woman dressed in white. Her grandmother said that La Llorona appeared at night by rivers or lagoons, crying for her lost children and looking for other children to steal. Prietita shivered. She turned around and looked for the fence. but it was nowhere in sight. She was lost. She smelled water, and soon she saw a white-tailed deer standing by a lagoon, dipping her head to drink. Prietita went quietly up to the deer and whispered, "Please, Benadita, little deer, can you help me find some room?" The deer lifted her head and stared at Prietita. She made a soft sound and began to move into the woods. Prietita thought she heard her say, "Follow me." So she started after her, but the such live oak and cactus got in the way. Soon the deer was out of sight. Prietita sat on a fallen log. She wiped her face on her sleeve and looked down. A salamander was watching her. She knew from her nature book in school that salamanders have no voice. "Salamandra, please help me. You can't speak, but maybe you can show me where there's some room," said Prietita. She followed the salamander until it disappeared into the underbrush. Then she heard the crying sound again. Cuckoo. A white-winged dove was sitting in a mesquite tree, singing her sad song. Prietita crept up to the tree and whispered, "Please, Palomita Blanca, I need to find some room." Cuckoo, cried the dove. Then she flew away. Prietita was hungry and thirsty, and her arms hurt where the Texas thistle had scratched her. She began to cry, but then she said to herself, "Don't give up, Prietita. You have to find the roof for Mommy." She wiped her tears, straightened her shoulders, and looked up. Ah, see the tree! She would climb the tree where the dove had been. Maybe then she could see where to go next. From her tree branch, Prietita looked in every direction, but all she saw was mesquite and prickly pear. Then she saw something in the bushes. A jaguarundi. He looked like the pictures she had seen of the jaguars in ancient Mexico. She dropped to the ground and followed him, but soon he too was gone. Tiny lights were moving ahead of her. Flashlights? Doña Lola had said they shot trespassers, but no, these were just luciérnagas, lighting bugs. Maybe they would guide her to the root plant. Prietita ran after them, but she tumbled against an exposed root. When she looked up, the lightning bugs had disappeared. The night was very dark. "Why can't I see the stars?" she wondered. "Where have they gone?" Then she realized that they were only hidden by a canopy of leaves. Again, Prietita heard a faint crying sound, but not like the sound of the dove. This time she was sure it was a woman crying. She wanted to run away, but she forced herself to walk toward the sound. Soon she came into an open area where the moon was reflected on the surface of a lagoon. Prietita looked across the lagoon and saw a flash of white in the trees. Then she saw a dark woman dressed in white emerge from the trees and float above the water. In a trembling voice, Prietita called out to the ghost woman, "Please, señora, can you help me find some room?" The ghost woman floated along the edge of the lagoon, and Prietita followed her. Soon the woman stopped and pointed to a spot on the ground. Prietita knelt down. The moon moved in the sky, and suddenly Prietita could see the plant. She examined it. Yes, it was the root. No longer afraid, she broke off a few branches and looked up at the ghost woman. "Thank you, Señora Llorona." The ghost woman guided Prietita through the woods. Soon they were moving quickly on a wide, clear path. Prietita felt like she was flying. Finally, Prietita saw the fence up ahead and quickly scrambled under the barbed wire. Then she turned to say goodbye to her new friend, but no one was there. The ghost woman had disappeared. Prietita saw people with flashlights. The next thing she knew, Miranda was running toward her. Prietita hugged her little sister. "Thank you all for coming to look for me," she said. "How did you find your way out of the woods?" asked Doña Lola. "A ghost woman in white was my guide." "La Llorona?" said Prietita's cousin Tete. "But everyone knows she takes children away. She doesn't bring them back." "Perhaps she is not what others think she is," said Doña Lola. Silently, Prietita pushed the rue branches into the hands of la curandera. Gracias, mijita." "Thank you, my child," said Doña Lola. Prietita smiled. "Come, let's go home," said Doña Lola. "It is late. I'll walk you and Miranda to your mother's house." "Thank you, señora," said Prietita. "Tomorrow I'll show you how to prepare the healing remedio for your mother," said Doña Lola. "I am very proud of you. You have grown up this night." And here we have an author's note. It says, "When I was a little girl growing up in South Texas near the King Ranch, my Mama Grande, my grandmother, used to tell me scary stories about La Llorona, the ghost woman. These stories were well known throughout the Southwest and in Mexico. All the children were afraid of La Llorona. I was afraid too. But even at that age, I wonder if there was another side to her. As I grew older and studied the roots of my Chicana Mexicana culture, I discovered that there really was another side to La Llorona, a powerful, positive side, a side that represents the Indian part and the female part of us. I discovered La Prietita, that things are not always what they seem to be. In this story, I want to convey my respect for La Curanderas, the traditional healers of my people. They know many things about healing that Western doctors are just beginning to learn. And I want to encourage children to look beneath the surface of what things seem to be in order to discover the truths that may be hidden. Gloria Anzaldua is a major Mexican American Chicana literary voice. Her first book for children's book press, Friends from the Other Side, Amigos del Otro Lado, about a brave young girl's friendship with an immigrant boy and his mother, was praised by the school library journal as an important book touching on a timely and sensitive issue. Gloria grew up in South Texas and lives in Santa Cruz, California. Maya Christina Gonzalez is a painter, graphic artist, and jeweler. She feels a deep and personal connection with the figure of La Llorona, viewing her as a metaphor for Prietitas as well as her own creativity and spiritual growth. Maya spent much of her childhood living in the Oregon wilderness and now lives in San Francisco, California. If you would like to check this book out, you can find it in the picture book section under ANZ for Anzaldua, which is the author's last name. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.